The Khafre Pyramid has long captivated historians and archaeologists, especially in the last few days, when a small team of researchers unveiled findings that could rewrite the story of the Giza Plateau and the advanced prehistoric civilizations that mainstream scientists still dismiss. In a conference room in Italy, Professor Corrado Malanga of the University of Pisa stood before a screen glowing with radar-imaged shapes. What he revealed sent shockwaves through both the scientific community and the public. What he presented was evidence of massive man-made structures hidden deep beneath the Pyramid of Khafre, the second largest pyramid of the Giza complex. Using advanced synthetic aperture radar, SAR scans, and seismic data, Malanga and his colleague Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde announced the discovery of a sprawling subterranean complex, in their words, a true underground city, lurking far below the desert surface. This announcement quickly became sensational news, igniting intense debates worldwide.
Apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go kilometers.
They managed to get some data from the infrastructure that is beneath the soil, beneath the ground. And what they discover is, if you want spiral hallways.
The Great Pyramid is 146 meters tall. That's 4.5 times the height into the ground. They end at 2 cubes that are 80 meters by 80 meters.
Could the pyramids, traditionally thought to be royal tombs, be perched atop a labyrinthine subterranean world? If so, who built these hidden chambers and for what purpose? If you're fascinated by the prehistoric civilizations missing from our history books, embark on a remarkable journey with our ebook, Prehistoric Megastructures. This nearly 500-page volume is packed with images and in-depth explorations of some of the most astonishing and unexplained ancient structures ever discovered, monuments that were clearly built with advanced technology from a time long forgotten. There's a limited discount on the ebook, so make sure to click the link in the description or top pinned comment and uncover the mysteries that mainstream history refuses to acknowledge. The Pyramid of Khafre, a towering limestone giant, has stood for millennia as the second tallest of the Giza pyramids. It soars to a height of about 136 meters, approximately 450 feet, and still retains remnants of its smooth casing stones at the apex. Archaeologists exploring Khafre's pyramid since the 19th century found a relatively simple internal design. Descending passageways leading to a single main chamber carved into the bedrock where a red granite sarcophagus still resides, its lid long broken. Unlike the Great Pyramid, which contains multiple chambers and passages, Khafre's interior appeared straightforward, no elaborate mazes, no obvious hidden rooms. When Giovanni Battista Belzoni first breached its sealed corridors in 1818, he found the main chamber empty, save for the sarcophagus, with no treasure or additional passages to speak of. By all traditional accounts, Khafre's pyramid was a grand but singular purpose structure, a pharaonic tomb, and nothing more. However, the Giza Plateau has always provoked imaginations to wander beyond what is immediately visible. Khafre's pyramid sits on a plateau riddled with smaller tombs, temples, and possible underground cavities. Adjacent stands the Great Sphinx, under which legends have long whispered of hidden chambers. Over decades, occasional radar and sonar surveys around the Sphinx and pyramids hinted at anomalies, empty spaces, or unusual echoes. In the 1960s, physicist Luis Alvarez even used cosmic ray muon detectors to scan inside Khafre's pyramid for hidden chambers, but found none. Later analyses suggest the scan had limitations in coverage. By 2010, attention shifted more to the Great Pyramid of Khufu, where modern muon tomography revealed a mysterious void above the Grand Gallery in 2017. Khafre's pyramid remained comparatively underscanned, and its underground secrets remained sealed by hundreds of feet of solid rock. That is, until the Khafre project came along. Professor Corrado Malanga, a chemist-turned-researcher with unconventional leanings, and radar specialist Dr. Filippo Biondi set their sights on Khafre's edifice with fresh eyes and new tools. They suspected that what we see on the surface might not tell the full story of what Khafre's pyramid truly is. The key to the Khafre project's potential discovery lies in synthetic aperture radar, SAR imaging, a technology originally developed for remote sensing and military reconnaissance. Unlike traditional ground-penetrating radar used by archaeologists, which involves hauling radar equipment over the ground surface, SAR uses radar pulses beamed from satellites or aircraft. By processing the returning signals, SAR can produce high-resolution images of the landscape, even through clouds or sand. But Malanga and Biondi pushed SAR a step further. They weren't just interested in surface features, they wanted to see underground. At first glance, using radar from space to probe deep into rock sounds like science fiction. Normally, radar waves penetrate only a limited distance into dry, dense material. However, the researchers combined SAR data with Doppler tomography techniques and even the faint tremors of the Earth. As project spokesperson Nicole Cicolo explained, the team used tiny vibrations from naturally occurring seismic activity to help illuminate subsurface features. Essentially, as two satellites 420 miles overhead sent radar signals toward the pyramid, the subtle echoes and interferences, modulated by seismic micro-movements, were gathered and processed using advanced algorithms. The result was a kind of 3D radar X-ray of the ground beneath Khafre. Instead of simple limestone bedrock, the 3D images revealed extensive underground structures, including 5 multi-level structures reminiscent of the architectural style seen in the King's Chamber and relieving chambers of the Great Pyramid. Moreover, the team described 8 vertical cylindrical shafts extending approximately 650 meters underground, which is almost half a mile, each with spiral stairways leading down to 2 colossal cubic structures measuring about 80 meters per side. To visualize the scale, the Empire State Building stands at 443 meters tall, 1,450 feet, making these alleged subterranean cylinders even taller and more imposing. But that's not all. Nicole Cicolo noted that about 4,000 feet beneath the pyramid's base, there might exist further chambers or structures. This claim, if true, pushes the scenario into truly epic proportions, nearly 1.2 kilometers underground. When Professor Malanga magnified one particularly striking image, he was convinced beneath it lies what can only be described as a true underground city. The term city might sound hyperbolic, but standing back and looking at the composite, multiple buildings, interlinked corridors, huge shafts like subway tunnels, and massive chambers, it does resemble an urban layout deliberately engineered. To visualize the discovery, the Khafre project shared dramatic 3D renderings. One image showed a ghostly perspective of the Pyramid of Khafre with translucent sides, revealing labyrinthine tunnels and chambers snaking below it, almost like an ant colony under a hill. Another rendering depicted the spiral wells in cross-section, spiraling downward into darkness. These digital models, the team explained, were approximations based on the radar tomography, but they gave the world a first glimpse of what these hidden structures might look like. The claims immediately set off excitement among history enthusiasts. Could this be the fabled Lost City some had theorized might lie beneath Giza? On social media, hashtags related to the pyramids spiked. One viral post declared, "The megastructure they just found underneath the Giza pyramids is probably the most important discovery to ever be made in our lifetimes," blending awe with hyperbole. The world suddenly pictured an advanced ancient civilization of sophisticated engineers and unimaginable treasures sealed in the cubic vaults below. The factual details of the discovery were incredible enough, but they also served as tinder for a bonfire of speculation that was now catching fire. He went further, calling the notion of a vast city beneath the Giza pyramids a huge exaggeration. Conyers pointed out that while small subsurface cavities like tomb shafts or natural hollows might exist, the existence of an entire connected city-sized complex had no precedent and strained credulity. It is conceivable there are small structures, such as shafts and chambers, beneath the pyramids that existed before they were built. It's the scale of these claims that is questionable, he explained, referencing how other cultures, like the Maya, built pyramids atop sacred caves. In essence, yes, minor voids are possible under a pyramid, but the devil's in the details. 8 giant shafts and interlinked halls are another matter. The limitations of SAR technology were also highlighted by critics. Traditional SAR is excellent for mapping terrain or even identifying shallow buried features like buried riverbeds or walls a few meters down. But as Conyers and others noted, radar signals lose strength quickly in dense materials. SAR's effectiveness diminishes significantly beyond a few meters in solid geological formations, one expert noted dryly. How then could Malanga and Biondi claim to see hundreds of meters deep? The project's response is their special Doppler processing and the aid of seismic vibrations. But until independent scientists can review the data, healthy skepticism remains. It didn't help the project's case that peer review was still pending. The team's 2022 paper had undergone review, and even that raised eyebrows by including unorthodox references to theories. But the 2025 findings were announced via press conference in a self-published report, not yet vetted by outside experts. Dr. Hussein Abdelbasir, director of the Antiquities Museum in Alexandria, remarked that any real scientific discovery in the field of archaeology must be published first in a reliable scientific journal after careful review by independent experts. By that standard, he suggested, the Khafre underground city wasn't confirmed science, at least not yet. Perhaps the most vocal detractor was Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities and a towering figure in Egyptology. Hawass has spent decades researching at Giza and is famously protective of Egypt's archaeological narrative. When news of the SAR scans hit media, Hawass swiftly and vehemently denied it. He labeled the claims baseless and lacking any scientific evidence, even accusing the authors of peddling fake news to undermine Egypt's heritage. Hawass asserted that no official project had detected such structures and that no radar devices or modern technologies have been used to detect alleged structures beneath the Khafre pyramid in any authorized capacity. Essentially, from the Egyptian authorities' perspective, nothing of the sort had been found because no sanctioned investigation found it, implying that Malanga's remote sensing might not even be considered legitimate without on-site verification. Hawass went so far as to say these rumors will go to the dustbin of history. Despite the skepticism from establishment figures, the Khafre project has its share of supporters and curious onlookers in the scientific community as well. Some geologists have shown interest in reviewing the raw data to see if natural geological formations, like echoing layers of limestone, might be tricking the radar. Others acknowledge that, while extraordinary, the data can't be dismissed outright without proper analysis. The sheer volume of details the team provided, specific depths, shapes, and connections, suggests they weren't just seeing random noise in the signals. It raised the question, what if they truly did detect something? Only a targeted ground truth, like drilling or endoscopic cameras through the rock, could confirm these voids exist. And that leads to the next hurdle, permission to excavate. This technical back and forth is far from settled. The Egyptian authorities have historically been cautious about new digs at Giza, especially ones that challenge orthodox views. As Nicole Chikolo noted, the team hopes to conduct physical verification, but securing approval for such investigations is incredibly tough. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities would need to greenlight any intrusion into or beneath Khafre's pyramid. Given officials' current stance, that seems unlikely in the near term. The only way to prove the discoveries are true is through targeted excavations, one expert said. And ironically, that's the very thing that may not happen soon. Thus, the Khafre mystery hangs in a tantalizing balance. Technological evidence in hand, but no physical confirmation. In the meantime, the court of public opinion remains divided, with open-minded excitement tempered by calls for caution. One reason this story has captured so much public fascination is that it taps into long-standing legends about hidden chambers and lost knowledge beneath Egypt's monuments. As soon as Malanga, Biondi, and Chikolo began describing vast chambers beneath the Earth's surface, comparable in size to the pyramids themselves, ears perked up among those who are drawn to the mysteries of antiquity. The project's spokesperson even invoked the name of the legendary Halls of Amenti. But what are the Halls of Amenti? In ancient Egyptian mythology, Amenti can refer to the West, the land of the dead, where Ra travels at night. However, in more mystic and modern interpretations, notably the so-called Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Halls of Amenti are depicted as deep underground chambers where wisdom and perhaps the very consciousness of great masters are stored. These halls, according to legend, were hidden beneath the sands, guarded and rarely accessed except by enlightened beings. By drawing a remarkably strong correlation between the newly mapped structures and the Halls of Amenti, Nicole Chikolo was suggesting that the team's discovery might align with those ancient mythic accounts of an underworld library or even a place of regeneration. It was a bold and speculative connection, effectively blending science with myth. Yet, to those who have always believed Egypt's greatest secrets lie underfoot, it was vindication that such myths might be rooted in reality. A closely related legend is that of the Hall of Records, a fabled archive of knowledge, said to contain scrolls or tablets from Atlantis or the time of the gods, purportedly hidden somewhere in Giza, often thought to be under the Great Sphinx or one of the pyramids. This idea was popularized by mystics like Edgar Cayce in the 20th century. For years, people searched for the Hall of Records. Some even claim the Sphinx has a hollow chamber. Small cavities have indeed been detected under the Sphinx, but nothing like an archive has been found. The Khafre Project's findings have inevitably been linked to this legend as well. The researchers themselves mentioned the Hall of Records in their discussions, tying the symmetrical shafts and massive halls to the notion of stored ancient knowledge, particularly those associated with the god Thoth. Thoth, the Egyptian deity of wisdom, is often central in these tales, sometimes said to have hidden sacred texts in subterranean chambers to protect them from cataclysms. The resurgence of these legends in light of the SOR discovery creates an intoxicating mix of fact and folklore. Imagine if indeed an underground city exists and one day is entered. What might be found there? Some speculate it could be a cache of ancient scrolls or artifacts far older than dynastic Egypt, potentially detailing a lost civilization. Of course, Such speculation runs ahead of evidence. But history has taught us that myth and reality sometimes intertwine in surprising ways. After all, Troy was a legendary city until it was actually found. Adding to the mystique, historical anecdotes and lesser-known excavations around Giza have hinted at underground features. In the late 1930s, archaeologist Selim Hassan reported finding large tunnels and what he described as catacombs north of the Khafre Pyramid, as well as a deep shaft near the Sphinx, the so-called Osiris shaft discovered later in the 1990s, turned out to be a multi-level tomb about 30 meters deep with a water-filled bottom chamber. These discoveries were real but limited in scope, a far cry from a 600-meter-deep complex, yet they fed the notion that Giza's bedrock contains more voids than one might expect. Each little find kept the flame of speculation flickering through the decades. Now, with Malanga and Biondi's announcement, those flames have flared into a bonfire. Internet forums and late-night radio shows lit up with discussions linking the halls of Amenti, Atlantis, and even extraterrestrials to the Giza underground network. Professor Malanga's own background as a UFO researcher, a fact noted by some critics, only added fuel to the imaginative fire. While the core team sticks to describing what the scans show, they do not shy away from drawing grand possibilities. The Khafre Project Conference even featured researcher Armando May, speculating a date of 36,400 BCE for the Giza complex origins and linking it to the mythical reign of Thoth. Such ideas are considered fringe by mainstream science. They rewrite timelines entirely, yet they resonate with those who suspect the official history of civilization is incomplete. In this atmosphere, the scientific interpretations and the speculative theories are advancing side by side, each spurring the other on. The data has revived ancient legends, and those legends in turn are giving the discovery an almost epic context. It's as if the dry facts of radar signals and limestone strata have opened a portal to a realm of archetypal human wonder, the eternal search for hidden knowledge. Whether or not one entertains the existence of the Hall of Records or the Halls of Amenti, it's undeniable that the Pyramid of Khafre has never felt more mysterious than it does today. The ground that millions of tourists have trod around this pyramid, taking routine photos, may hide something that until now was only whispered of in myth. Perhaps the most profound question arising from the Khafre underground discovery is what it implies about the purpose of the pyramids themselves. If the pyramids sit atop a gargantuan man-made complex, the traditional view of them as simple tombs with some supporting tunnels might need a dramatic reevaluation. Malanga and Biondi's findings have energized proponents of alternative theories who have long argued that the Egyptian pyramids were more than royal grave markers. Now they feel scientific data is finally on their side. One line of speculation is that the pyramids and their newly revealed substructures were part of a sophisticated machine or energy system. This isn't a new idea. It harkens back to ideas from thinkers as illustrious as Nikola Tesla. Tesla, the great inventor, was reportedly fascinated by the pyramids and at one point mused that their shape and geographic orientation might mean they were tapping into Earth's energy in some way. While Tesla never proved anything of the sort, the concept that the pyramids could harness natural electromagnetic or telluric forces has persisted. In the 1990s, engineer Christopher Dunn popularized the notion in his book, The Giza Power Plant, arguing that the Great Pyramid's internal chambers formed a giant power generator, converting seismic vibrations into microwave energy.
They were attached to the Earth. They were tuned to vibrate with the frequencies of the Earth, and they converted the energies of the Earth into electromagnetic energy. Best example of this is in the Great Pyramid. It's probably the most precise structure on the planet.
Dunn's theory was largely speculative, but it was rooted in the precise architectural features inside Khufu's pyramid. Now consider the Khafre complex through that lens: 8 deep shafts with spiral paths, perhaps to modulate flow of materials or people, huge chambers that could resonate or store something, interlinked tunnels. It indeed starts to sound like the piping and chambers of some enormous machine. Could it be an ancient water pumping station? Some scientists in the past suggested the pyramids might have a role in water management, as the Nile's high water table is right at Giza. The Osiris shaft being water-filled hints at a water connection, or even more far-fetched, an energy hub that used the Earth's natural vibrational energy. During their briefing, the Khafre project team themselves noted that the discoveries align with theories proposed by figures such as Nikola Tesla and Christopher Dunn regarding mechanical or energy functions of the pyramids. They pointed out that the newfound subterranean layout dovetails with the idea that the pyramids might have been part of an ancient machine, perhaps a power plant or a massive ceremonial instrument. Another theory revitalized by the find is the idea of an initiation or transformation complex. Some alternative historians propose that the pyramid structures, both above and below ground, were designed to facilitate spiritual journeys, maybe for pharaohs, maybe for priests, or even for beings from elsewhere. The great depths could symbolize a journey to the underworld, and the apex of the pyramid a return to the light. If large voids exist below, they could have been chambers where certain rituals were performed, aligned with the stars and the earth. The concept sounds mystical, but we do know the Egyptians held the Duat, underworld, in deep cosmological importance and built tombs to mirror that journey. Perhaps these underworld halls were literal stages for such rites. Furthermore, if the structures are truly as old as Malanga's colleague Armando May suggests, tens of thousands of years predating the Egyptians we know, then we might be looking at evidence of a lost civilization, a civilization capable of monumental architecture that either inspired the Egyptians or was absorbed into their mythology. Could the pyramids have been inherited by Khafre and his contemporaries, already built atop older foundations? This idea, once relegated to the fringe, finds some footing if a massive underground works is confirmed, because the scale would be unlike what the 4th dynasty Egyptians typically constructed. Mainstream science strongly favors that Egyptians of Khufu and Khafre's time built the pyramids themselves around 2500 BCE, but discoveries like Göbekli Tepe, a 12,000-year-old complex in Turkey, have taught archaeologists not to underestimate ancient peoples. The Giza underground city, if real, would force a huge reconsideration. Either the Old Kingdom Egyptians were far more advanced engineers than thought, digging kilometers of tunnels, or someone else in a deeper past started the job. Of course, these notions remain speculative theories at this stage. The Khafre project's evidence is intriguing, but far from delivering concrete proof of how the structures were used or who built them. Still, it invites a thrilling thought experiment. The broader implications range from rewriting Egyptology textbooks to inspiring new interdisciplinary research. Engineers might start examining pyramid construction in light of deep foundation techniques. Interestingly, the team suggested the underground structures could have acted as a support system, like caissons or piles, stabilizing the pyramids from below, which, if true, indicates an advanced understanding of soil mechanics in antiquity. Physicists might be curious to model whether an array of shafts and chambers could indeed amplify or channel energy in some way. And historians of religion might revisit ancient texts to see if references to hidden realms might in fact be metaphorical memories of real underground places. For now, The pyramids retain their mysteries, but those mysteries have evolved. Where once the big question was, how were the pyramids built? Now equally provocative questions arise. Why were they built the way they were? And what else was built along with them? The Khafre Pyramid may no longer be seen simply as a standalone monument. It could be the visible summit of an entire subterranean iceberg. This new paradigm dethrones the pyramid's status as tombs. It adds deeper layers to their function. Perhaps they were something more than mere tombs, powerhouses, libraries, gateways to the underworld, or all of the above. The beauty of such a mystery-laden discovery is that it forces us to think beyond conventional categories. As one commentator noted, these findings challenge the long-held belief that the pyramids were solely royal tombs, opening up debate about a possible mechanical or energy-related function. Entertaining the scenario that Malanga and Biondi's discovery is validated, the implications for history and archaeology are monumental. What if this massive underground complex truly exists? Such a finding would rank among the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time, on par with unearthing the tomb of Tutankhamun or the cities of Pompeii, if not exceeding them. Here are a few broader considerations and consequences that would arise from a confirmed underground city at Giza. A vast underground network might indicate a level of architectural planning and labor organization previously unknown for the Pyramid Age. Egyptologists would have to explain how an enormous engineering project, potentially involving the removal of millions of cubic meters of rock, was achieved. Did it occur concurrently with pyramid construction or earlier? Either answer is astonishing. If concurrent, Khafre's reign would suddenly have to accommodate a mega project beneath the pyramid as well as the pyramid itself, implying a workforce and knowledge base even greater than assumed. If earlier, it suggests an advanced culture at Giza before the 4th dynasty, lending credence to those who suspect the site's importance predates the pharaohs. In either case, timelines might shift, and the story of Giza's development would gain new chapters. The engineering required to carve spiraling staircases down 600+ meters and create huge chambers would be mind-boggling. It would dwarf other ancient underground works. For comparison, the deepest known mine in ancient times, a copper mine in Timna, might have been a few dozen meters deep. Scholars might compare it to later achievements like the well shafts of the Delhi stepwells or the tunnel systems of the Romans, yet those are separated by millennia. Did the pyramid builders have unknown tools, perhaps a form of fire setting to fracture rock, or some technique to keep such a deep excavation ventilated and safe? Such questions would spur new archaeotechnological research. We might discover new evidence of how ancient Egyptians approached subterranean construction, specialized stone drills, proto-compasses for navigation underground, etc. The complexity beneath Khafre could reveal the Egyptians, or their predecessors, as even more ingenious engineers than we've imagined. Finding extensive chambers could also change our understanding of Egyptian spiritual life. Maybe these were underground temples or sites for rituals related to the afterlife. The pyramid texts, inscriptions inside later pyramids, speak of the pharaoh's soul journeying through caverns and chambers on its way to the stars. How poetic and potentially literal if Khafre's architects built an actual physical counterpart to those metaphysical journeys. Artifacts or inscriptions in those chambers, if found, could shed light on religious practices or even governance. Imagine stumbling upon records or caches of offerings sealed in those depths. On a practical level, confirming a hidden city at Giza would launch a new era of archaeology in Egypt. The world's eyes and funding would converge to excavate carefully. It could be the most delicate dig ever, since structurally one would worry about undermining the pyramids above. Likely, tiny robotic probes or tunnels from the side could be attempted before any large-scale opening. However, all these implications hinge on that critical if. The scientific community, while excited, remains responsibly cautious. Until independent teams replicate the results or physical excavations confirm the structures, many researchers will reserve judgment. As one Egyptologist commented, while the idea of a hidden underground city is tantalizing, the current evidence remains unverified. Until more concrete data, such as peer-reviewed papers or excavation results, emerges, we must urge caution. It's a healthy reminder that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. The Khafre project team is working to provide that proof, and perhaps soon, collaboration with other experts could take place to validate the radar images. One thing is clear: the game has changed. Archaeologists will now likely incorporate more remote sensing in their toolkit. Even if the Khafre structures turn out to be smaller or fewer than claimed, this episode demonstrates how new technologies can drive discovery. The next few years could see a flurry of scans at other sites. Who knows what lies under other temples or ancient cities? For Egypt, there is also a matter of national pride and control. The authorities will want any discovery to be confirmed under their supervision. So, one can expect behind-the-scenes negotiations between the Italian-Scottish team and the Egyptian Antiquities Department. Perhaps a limited exploratory drilling could be allowed if done non-invasively. If that happens and yields evidence, say a cavity is hit where predicted, or a small camera drops into a hollow space showing a man-carved wall, it would be the domino that tips the consensus toward believing in this hidden complex. The world would then watch as a new chapter of archaeology commences beneath the sands of Giza. Standing on the Giza Plateau today, amid throngs of tourists and the gaze of the ancient Sphinx, one might feel that these pyramids have given up all their secrets. But the recent SR scan study by Professor Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi suggests the opposite. Perhaps the greatest secrets still lie untold, deep in the bedrock, waiting to be truly discovered. It's a reminder of the enduring allure of the unseen. The pyramids have always evoked awe, but now they tantalize us with a new layer of mystery, literally beneath the surface.